Hey everyone, today I want to go through a few things I noticed that Pathfinder 2nd Edition does, which can be traced back to similar rules and mechanics in Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition. D&D 4th Edition was a significant change in the rules that were introduced with 3rd Edition in 2000. In many ways, Pathfinder 2nd Edition was an equally large shift from how Pathfinder 1st Edition worked. And as I look through the two games, I see several areas where these changes overlap. First of all, character options. 5th Edition and Pathfinder 1st Edition both follow the same format where you select a race and a class up front, and then as you progress through the levels, you gain additional abilities. You might get to select a path or a circle or a domain or something, but for the most part, new class features are handed out on a schedule. D&D 4th Edition and Pathfinder 2nd Edition both give you more options that allow you to customize your character as you level up. D&D 4th Edition introduced powers. At nearly every level, every class got to choose new powers for their character. There were many options to choose from so that you have a lot of control over your character's development. Each power translated to some action that you could take during the game. D&D 4th Edition also had a lot of feats that you could choose from at certain levels for even more options. In Pathfinder 2nd Edition, these powers come in the form of ancestry, class, skill, and general feats. Depending on what level you're moving to, you get to choose one or more new feats. Many of these feats use actions and reactions to give your character special abilities during the game. They function in much the same way as the powers did in D&D 4th Edition. In both cases, they serve to provide the player with a ton of options for what the character can do as they level up. Next is combat. I don't think there will be any argument if I say that D&D 4th Edition was heavily focused on combat. I ran plenty of 4th Edition games that were not focused on combat, but I will concede that it has a lot of rules that emphasize strategy on the battlefield. D&D 4th Edition was expected to be run on a battle map with tokens so that players could visualize what was going on. Many of the powers granted extra damage or extra attacks or special movement to encourage players to use all of their abilities to put their characters in advantageous positions. For example, the Ranger power Twin Strike allowed a Ranger with 2 melee weapons to make 2 attacks. Nimble Strike allowed the character to shift 1 space while making an attack. And Two-Fanged Strike allowed the character to make 2 quick ranged attacks on a single action. More so than in prior versions of Dungeons & Dragons, 4th Edition provided the rules to make combat more than just characters standing in place pounding on each other. Looking at Pathfinder 2nd Edition, I see a similar evolution. Many of the feat options available allow the characters to use actions to get special bonuses and abilities in combat. For example, Rangers can select feats such as Twin Takedown, which allows 2 melee strikes on a single turn, Skirmish Strike to get a step as part of your strike, and Hunted Shot, which permits 2 ranged attacks on a single action. Many of the combat-related feats in Pathfinder 2nd Edition can be traced back to D&D 4th Edition powers. But more so than the special abilities, I can definitely see how D&D 4th Edition's emphasis on strategic combat is embraced within Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And finally, the 3-action economy. This is one where Pathfinder 2nd Edition definitely refined it and made it something really nice, but I can see the seeds of it when I look at Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition. For some context, both D&D 3rd Edition and Pathfinder 1st Edition used the same approach of 1 standard action and 1 move action on each turn, and then some assorted rules if you wanted to do other things. Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition and Pathfinder 2nd Edition took similar steps to improve upon this. On a player's turn in Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition, they could take 3 actions, designated as a standard action, a move action, and a minor action. Every activity, including powers, spells, and skills, indicated what kind of action would be required. Most powers used a standard action, but there were many that also used minor actions, move actions, and reactions as well. Depending on the type of action needed, you could use multiple powers on a single turn, and the rules allowed you to use higher actions to perform lower actions. For example, I could use my move action to cast Jump, and then convert my standard action into a minor action so that I could cast both Light and Mage Hand on the same turn. The rules gave me the flexibility to mix and match the 3 actions in creative ways. Pathfinder 2nd Edition improved upon this with the 3-action economy. You still get 3 actions, but instead of labeling the actions themselves, it uses the number of actions needed for each activity to control how many times they can be used on a turn. For example, Ray of Frost is a standard action in Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition, meaning you could only cast it once per turn because you only get 1 standard action per turn. In Pathfinder 2nd Edition, Ray of Frost, like most spells, requires 2 actions, so you could also only cast it once per turn since you only have 3 actions. To discourage people from using all 3 actions to attack, Pathfinder 2nd Edition uses penalties on the 2nd and 3rd attack on the same turn. Pathfinder 2nd Edition has a more refined approach to the 3 actions, but Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition was definitely heading down the same road. Let me be clear that while I do think D&D 4th edition doesn't get enough credit, I am not making any claims that either system is better. They are both great games in their own right. I simply find it interesting when you can see the influences of one manifested in the other. But let me know what you think. Are there other similarities between the systems that I overlooked? Love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Until next time, take care.